In many ways, the Sikha of Teruma Aleph is like the ultimate Rashi Sikha. Starts with Pshutei Shal Mikra, a simple reading of the text, explains what Rashi is coming to say, Lili Shmi, then takes it to halacha, then takes it to an incredible insight and incredible farbrengen. Ultimately, what's Rashi here? What's the Rebbe here to do? So the Rebbe explains that Li Lishmi. Why does Rashi have to come and say that? His question was with the word Li, because we already know V'yikhu means to remove, to take from one rishus to another rishus. And Truma, in both of its translations, whether it means being lifted or whether it means being separated, also implies hektish. And what's the word li coming to tell us beyond? And from here we learn that it has to be li lishmi, meaning for lekavana. Like when we say lishma, it has to be kavana lishma. For example, by a get, Sefer Torah. And the Rebbe then asks, even though amongst the trumas that we're talking about, we include karbanis tzibur, the truma that goes for the communal karbana, and over there we know that you can force somebody. So how can you have lishma over there? So over there, the Rebbe has an incredible chiddush in the derech halacha that v'yikhuli, that has to be taken lishma, doesn't necessarily have to be given lishma. Who's taking it? The gizbarim, the gaboim, the people who are taking the money, they have to take it lishma. And the Rebbe asks this question, and that is, what's the difference about how he's taking it? Ultimately, it wasn't given lishma, and has nothing to do with the truma. It has to do with the fact that the gizbar is taking it lishma, and that's really where the sikha starts hitting home very powerfully in Ois Tes. The Rebbe explains over there, the nesinas hatzuma is given for the mishkan and karbanos. Giving truma was for the karbanos, to make a dir lo yisbarach b'tachtayim. And in order to make a dira, the Rebbe goes into the famous point that a dira has to have two things. First of all, you have to clean out the mess. And number two, you have to then put in the dira. There's a famous mashal, the famous story that's given about this, that one time the German Kaiser hosted the Tsar of Russia, and the Tsar of Russia prepared him kishka, and the Jew prepared it for him. And the German Kaiser was very impressed, so he sent a letter after that to the Russian Tsar asking for the recipe, which the Jew prepared, the Jewish baker, the Jewish cook. And then the German Kaiser gives it to his cook. They make it, and it tastes horrible, like absolutely horrible, disgusting. So he sends this nasty letter to the Russian Tsar, like, you're making a fool out of me? So the Russian doesn't want, a diplomatic crisis over some kishka. So he calls the Jew and said, what's going on? And the Jew says, listen, I gave you this honest recipe. Like, I really don't know what the issue is. And then suddenly the Jew says, one second, kishka is made of intestines. Did he clean the intestines before he put in the whole recipe? What's the point? You could spice up a beautiful kishka, but if we're talking about the real kishka, not the kishka today, the fake kishka. The real kishka was made of intestines of an animal. You can't make it unless you clean the animal. You clean out all the dirt. So too over here, you can make a dir leisbarach, but the first thing is to take out the dirt, surmeda, and then you put in the asitov. Now he says, Chassidus explains, and he quotes from the Friedeker in Tafshin Ches in 1948, this beautiful idea, and that is, when it comes to surmera, action is paramount. Intention is very little significance. Just don't do it. Just don't do the avera. That's how you do it, by staying away. Whatever it takes. You're a sa'enesh, you're afraid of the punishment, etc. You're doing it for your own agenda. Just don't do it. When it comes to asay toiv, intention is much more meaning, because the point is to do it, dear leisbarach, to bring Mashiach, the Kabbalah's name Mashiach, to do it with the right intention. Because you're trying to bring a likus lamata, so therefore, darf die meiste sein, wie es darf sein, es soll in dem shara sein alikus. You have to do it in the right way so that alikus is comfortable, and part of that is intention. But cleaning out, I don't care if the clean out is done by, a very fancy person or a very mediocre person. Just get the house clean. And therefore we say a person should do Torah mitzvahs even though it's Shalei Lishma because you come to Lishma. So there's a famous point that Shemiteich Shalei Lishma Ba Lishma, but that in the Teich of the Lishma is the Lishma, but that's not the point of the Sikha. Over here the Rebbe says, why do you have to do it Shalei Lishma? Because it's going to lead to Lishma, because ultimately that's the only way you get to the Tachlis. It has, in order to accomplish Bir B'Tachtonim, you have to do Lishma. Interesting, this connects very much with the Sikha. The Rebbe says in Tafshin and Beis in 1992, 1991, Chayesara, they have to live a Kabbalah Pnei Mashiach, that our shlichus is to greet Mashiach, and he asks himself, so what's the difference of what we were doing till now? And ultimately, what the explanation is, it's the intention. Intention matters. If you're trying to make this place that Hashem is comfortable, you have to do a full package. And it's not just about putting on tefillin, it's putting on tefillin Kabbalah Pnei Mashiach, etc., etc. Then the Rebbe says in Ois Yud that just like there is an Avodas Ha'adam, so too in the world itself and how you make the dira, there's 2 points. There's the sur, going and removing the world from klipas noiga, the mediocre stage, the place where it is till we do our avodah, and then it's bringing into HaKadosh Baruch Hu's reshus the asay tov. So that second part, the gizbar, the gabbai, he's playing a huge role because ultimately the yid is only giving. But that's only removing the money from Klipas Noiga. But now to be upgraded to Kedusha, it's a whole second thing, and that the Gizbar has to make sure it's Lishma because they're doing part 2, which is the Asay Tov, which in many ways is the ultimate goal. Then the Rebbe comes and says in Ois Yud Gimel this Hayda, like, as they say in English, it's left field. It's like you didn't see it coming. It's this incredible Hayda. And the Rebbe goes quite in depth into it. It says when you're trying to influence another yid, so you're doing the mitzvah of echech techech samisecha. By the way, echech techech doesn't mean admonish; it means prove, speak, engage. So you'll think to yourself, when I do my avodas Hashem, it has to be lishma. When I'm doing asay tov, over here I'm holding this person back from their surmeira. So I'm doing it doesn't make a difference how I do it, as long as the job is getting done. Yeah, I know it's not the right way, etc., and maybe I don't have the right agenda, but the person's job is to accept the truth from who it is. Comes to Rabbi and says, no. When I have to do something, then I can be forced. The yid, just like he's forced to give for the Teruma tzibur, karban tzibur, can be forced. But the gizbar, you're the gizbar in the scenario, and the gizbar has to make sure to do it lishma. Because when you're doing it for somebody else, by you it's an asay tov. You're trying to influence. So by you it's not a surmeira, it's an asay tov. An asay tov has to be done lishma. So don't cause fear. Don't freak people out. Because over there's another agenda which won't accomplish what needs to be accomplished. When you do it lishma, when you do it with the right intention, when you do it with love, when you do it with the right sincerity, then you'll be able to accomplish and you'll have all the brachas. Interesting, this sikha was said the first year of Rashi said, Tafshin Chafei. So it's the first Teruma Rashi sikha that the Rebbe gave after his mother, the Rebbe Tzimchana, passed away. This incredible insight about how to influence Yidden, and especially understanding the context then of how many Yidden saw Kiruv, how Yidden saw bringing Yidden back to Yiddishkeit. The Rebbe's agenda is do it with Ahavas Yisrael, do it the right way, because ultimately for you it's an asay tov.